Good evening. Thank you for joining me here on Opera Chat. We're starting Mozart Week tonight with Marriage of Figaro. And this is my absolute most favorite Mozart opera this whole week. There's a lot of good ones coming up. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Marriage of Figaro. As a bassoonist, this opera has a special place in my life as a bassoonist because this excerpt is on every single orchestral audition. And, they're not messing around with this bassoon part here. It has the melody right from the get-go. It's just the bassoons and the strings, and they're all in unison. And it's very exciting. It's pianissimo. It's technically challenging. It's just, there's a special place in, I don't know, some would say in their hearts, or some would say in hell for this excerpt. So, anyway, some cool things about what we're going to look at this week with all of these Mozart operas right in a row. Tonight I thought we would just start off with the overture in this opera. And I know it doesn't involve the singers, but there's some interesting things about this overture. And one of the things is it doesn't include any of the melodic material of this entire opera. It doesn't. It does not give you a preview of anything about to come up. And that's what a lot of overtures, what their function is to kind of whet the whistle, whet the appetite of the listener. It's a little, a little treat, a little musical appetizer. And so this particular overture does not serve that function, really. It kind of gives you more of a taste of the feeling of this opera. This is an opera buffa, which means it's a comedy. It is absolutely hilarious. If you have never seen The Marriage of Figaro, you are in for a treat because it's just hysterically funny. It's hysterically funny. There are all kinds of hijinks going on and, mistaken identities, just all sorts of relationship woes in this opera. So tonight we're going to look at the overture a little bit, but let's talk about this performance that's going to happen tonight also. Just a little bit of a teaser here. Well, not really a teaser, I guess. Just I don't know, preview. A little preview. There's definitely some fan favorites in tonight's performance. Let me see if there's a better way here. I'm still working on it. That does not want to. Okay. Anyway, we'll take a look down here. So this performance is from October 18th, 2014, and we have some of our group members' total favorite opera singers in this. The fabulous Ildar Abdrazakov. I'm sure there's somebody out there that is just watching just to hear me try to pronounce all these names, and I understand. It's a comedy special pretty much every night. This is another beautiful production from Richard Eyre. The set for this is just gorgeous. And this opera is set in Spain, and you can see from the wood, the really cool set on stage, there's a filigree. It's very detailed and complicated and The characters move in and out of this set, and it's really pretty cool. And it is on a turntable, and so you get to see all these different parts of the house that the action takes place in. So Ildar is leading the cast as the resourceful Figaro, set out on outwitting his master, the philandering Count Almaviva, played by the fabulous Peter Mattei, another huge fan favorite. Marlise Peterson sings Susanna, the object of the Count's affection and Figaro's bride-to-be. Amanda Majeski as the Countess, and Isabel Leonard gives a standout performance as the page boy Cherubino. James Levine's on the podium, brings out all the humor, drama, and humanity of Mozart's score. Well, he is a wonderful conductor, and I'm just going to leave that there. We're not gonna discuss him really, but musicianship beyond reproach, and that's what I'm gonna say about that. These are some great. This is like an all-star cast here for this opera, and Ildar is hilarious as Figaro. Like Peter Mattei, everybody is just great. Isabel Leonard, a wonderful Cherubino, just awesome. Something interesting that about the librettist, Lorenzo da Ponte wrote 3 operas with Mozart: The Marriage of Figaro, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna have a brain freeze or a brain fart, whatever. And I just, oh wait, I know where I put that. Right here. Sorry about that. Well, okay, I'm forgetting, but that's okay. Anyway, he had kind of a crazy life, and I'll just let you do your own research and read about him, because you'll be entertained, and also it'll come to me at some point here what those other 2 operas are. Okay. I do have things to share here with the overture. Of course, as usual, I would love to hear, any questions about the music, specifically the music, and I can answer theory questions, and we can talk about some theory, and we can talk about some singers if you would like that. I'm looking at the comments here. Was this performance live streamed not so long ago? We've seen several Marriage of Figaros, and I can't remember the order that they were streamed in. One great resource that we have in the Metropolitan Opera Live in HD fans Facebook group is a spreadsheet that is updated weekly right now by one of our awesome members, and they've been updating the spreadsheet with all the operas and all of the information, like when it was aired, the order in which they've been streamed, the stars, the conductor, all of those things are in this awesome spreadsheet. I know a lot of folks are using this kind of as a checklist, almost like an opera bucket list. Let me check off, how many of these things I've seen over the pandemic. And there's, more to come. But I believe this has been shown once so far. But this is just a fantastic version. The one that's going to be shown Sunday night that we're ending this week with is marvelous, and it's been shown at least once, if not twice. It's the one with um, y'all. The struggle is real with names. It's got Bryn Tervel in it, and uh, that Italian mezzo. Oh my gosh. Sings coloratura. There we go. See, we've got folks who can answer all the questions right here. When I don't have the answers, somebody in this group has the answers for sure. This one was streamed July 18th. Thank you so much, Ellen. Saving the day there. Oh, and I like this comment up here, talking about James Levine a moment. Just really a great opera conductor in spite of everything else. But that's true. He never covered the singers, which is great. I mean, I'll tell you what, from the orchestra perspective, it is so hard to play soft enough sometimes. And until you get to like singers at the level of the Met, for instance, you can in a hall that big. So when the singers carry that much, they have much more powerful voices, and they're much more in control and focused and older usually than at college or regional companies. And of course, the orchestra is way more experienced too, typically at the Met than anywhere else, playing for opera day in and day out. That's a great question. Oh yeah, Bartoli. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna come right back around to all of those comments that just popped up. Hang on a second. But sometimes, I mean, imagine this orchestra has pairs of woodwinds, so that's 8 woodwinds, 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 bassoons. It's got 2 trumpets, 2 horns, timpani, and a full string section. Okay, this is not a massive orchestra, but anything less than a seasoned player is not going to be able to play something like a Mozart opera underneath the singers. And that brings us back to a couple of things, a point. I love interaction. I love it that you guys are all commenting. That's awesome. So yes, Cecilia Bartoli, she is magnificent, and she is in the performance that's going to be on Sunday night. Dwayne Croft, Renee Fleming, yeah, 1998. So somebody asks, what does cover the singers mean? And that just means you can't hear the singers. If the orchestra is playing just too loud that the singer can't break through that texture or sing over the texture of the orchestra, it's a problem, because it just looks like they're lip syncing up there to nothing. If you can't hear the singer, it just looks awfully silly. Opera is silly to begin with, right? I mean, the last week I've just talked about all these ridiculous plots that Puccini threw into operas, and just the ridiculousness of all of it. And then to have somebody in that situation on a stage, and you can't even hear them, yet they look like they're singing, but you can't. You might hear a little faint something, and the orchestra just can't get under it. It takes experience, finesse, control, serious chops to accomplish that. And I speak from experience. My very first opera that I played principal bassoon on the magic flute, which is I thought it was a really long opera at that time, pretty much because the principal bassoon in the magic flute plays through the whole opera. There's very little resting time, and you have to play softly a lot of the time. And so it's a long, it's like running a marathon, but with your face right here. And it requires, I mean, Mozart is just so perfect. It's so beautiful. It's very balanced and symmetrical and transparent. That's really the word for Mozart, is transparent. There is no room for error in Mozart. It's just perfection. As much as something could be perfect in music in the classical period, Mozart is pretty much the embodiment of that, in my opinion. He understands form. He understands the golden section. He understands this beautiful proportion of increasing tension throughout a piece and releasing that tension at just the right time. Like, it's just, he gets it. He totally gets it. His melodies do that too. We could look at any of his arias and take them apart, and he just has such a good understanding of communicating through music. But there's just really nowhere to hide. That's basically what I'm getting at. There's nowhere to hide. Even the most naive or young, immature, new musician can hear that. You don't have to have a lot of experience to be able to hear, when there are errors being made in Mozart. That's what I'm saying. Oh, thank you for Ellen, for that. Figaro is on Saturday. I'm sorry, Idomeneo is Sunday. Thank you. Yeah, the set. This is an interesting comment, but the set for this opera does not help the singers. It swallows the sound instead of helping it go forward, as if there were a wall behind them. The set here ate the sound. Think of the set of The Ring with those walls behind the singers. That helps the projection. Yes, absolutely it does. You'll see in this set, all that filigree, while it's really beautiful, it does not provide that reflective surface for the sound to be pushed back out into the hall. That's very interesting. And in Mozart, because it is so transparent, I mean, they are not. I'm trying to think of a more appropriate phrase for how they're singing instead of what I was thinking. Sorry. But thinking, they are not cutting loose on Mozart like more romantic operas, right? Or more contemporary, turn of the century Verismo, or The Ring, or anything like that. They're not cutting loose like that. We're still kind of bridging from the Baroque. There's a lot of similarities here, still with Baroque music, and we have not graduated into the Verismo style, or a more singing with a bit of heft. All right. Okay, I'm gonna see. I use like so many different streaming things for teaching, and they all do different things in the way I connect all these other devices. Like, I have my iPad here to show you some scores and write on it, but it works differently in this program that I'm using. And so let's see if I can. Hello. Let me see if I can share that the way that I'm intending. Oops, that's what I meant to do. So let me see. Sharing. Nope, it's not going to want to connect to my iPad that way. Fiddlesticks. All right. I may have to. Okay. It's okay. It's all right. I'm going to just pull it up on my computer. So hang on a second, and I will just pop that open here, and we'll be on our way. Let's see here. Share. Okay. Oh, I know what I can do. Let me see if I can. Sorry about this. No, it's not going to go to my. Okay. All right. Maybe I will just do that tomorrow night, and or save that. I'll just do that Marriage of Figaro thing on Saturday night, and it'll all be wonderful. And I'll stop worrying about it, right? I'll stop worrying about it because you're all going to go watch the Marriage of Figaro after this anyway, and it'll be great. And you don't need me to tell you about the overture. Mozart is like a voice lesson. You must have your technique in place. Absolutely, absolutely. As a wind player, you can't be fumbling around. Any kind of, misfiring fingers is very evident. You can totally hear any kind of stuff that's not supposed to be there. All right. What are some things that, okay, let me jump back. I was going to talk in the overture about the phrase structure, and it's really fascinating. It really is. And also just talk a little bit about the orchestration. I mentioned the orchestration a little bit earlier, and for some people this might be very, beginner, but that's okay. We are all beginners at some point in our discovery of opera. And so orchestration, all that means is what instruments are playing in the orchestra. Literally, like what the orchestration is, just who all's there. What sounds did the composer want? And so looking through the score, I do believe I still have that on my computer because I was working on some analysis of this yesterday and in preparation for tonight. And then, of course, what did I not do? I did not practice with my iPad and this particular program because I'm using StreamYard, which is something I don't use with any of my classes. And so I just want to throw that out there that just thank you for being patient, and I'm happy to entertain any questions while I'm pulling this up. Let's see here. All right. I probably need. Okay. Well, it's not there. I've got my La Boheme score from last night up here, but it doesn't seem to be where it needs to be here. So, not a problem. Something funny is when I was getting this score in IMSLP, which if you've missed the last couple of nights and you're a newish musician, or you're, just learning about music, there's a great resource, and in the future, maybe I'll put up the links and things to this. But IMSLP is a wonderful resource that, as you learn more operas, you might want to start collecting scores, and you can download most of the scores for most of the operas that you'll see from the Met for free at IMSLP. This is yet another resource that provides public domain scores, scores out of copyright, and it just depends on what country you're accessing this from, about your copyright law, and it's, you're on your own, like, dealing with that. I'm not going to talk about copyright law, because I'm not a lawyer. If you're able to, this is such a great resource. I think it's maybe $15 or $20 a year to support IMSLP and just contribute to the to this project. It's a public service, in my opinion. It's the International Music Score Library Project. I know they've partnered with, I think, the Sibley, and of course I'm not a librarian, and I should get our friend Linda from the group on here to talk about this, because she's an amazing music librarian. But one of the contributors to this is the Sibley Library, which is at Eastman School of Music, and so a lot of times you'll find music in here from them. So they do a terrific job of contributing to this. So in here, you can look up, like I've put in here, Mozart La Nozze. And funny story, last night when I did this, it corrected, when I put in La Nozze di Figaro, auto-corrected to Le Nozzle de Figaro, or something like that. It was really hilarious, but it kept correcting Nozze to nozzle, and I was laughing hysterically about that. It was funny. Okay, so you can just put in some keywords here, and it's the very first thing. There's only one, La Nozze di Figaro, especially with a number like K492 from Mozart. You can, there's some recordings in here. There's also, some accompaniments. So if you wanted to learn some of these arias and sing them at home, sure, go for it, man. Nothing's stopping you, except maybe your family. Okay, in the score here, you can download the entire orchestra score, orchestra and vocal score, and the complete score is 427 pages. So this is not something, just be aware, like, don't hit print, okay, because you'll use up a whole ream of paper on this. Okay. If you wanted something simple, if you're a pianist, you might want to get a vocal score. It's just got the orchestra reduction to a piano, so you can play it with and just all the vocal lines in it. So that's fun. But I want to look at the complete score, and this is going to take a second because it is a big file, or maybe not. This is really fast. I'm so shocked at how fast that was. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Anyway, here we go. Here is what this looks like. We have the table of contents and this overture. In my notes that maybe I'll post somewhere in the link, this melody is in the bassoons. Fagotti means bassoons, plural, 2 bassoons, actually. We have flauti, that's 2 flutes. Oboe, 2 oboes. Clarinetti in A, that's 2 clarinets in A. The most common kind of clarinet is a B-flat clarinet, and we're not going to really go into that tonight in this little tidbit of a talk. Bassoons, Corny is horns, what you might know as French horns, and they're pitched here in the key of D. At this time, they probably were using natural horns without any valves on them. And that's another conversation. Trombe is trumpets in D. Timpani in D and A, so 2 timpani. And then a complete string section with first violins, second violins, violas, cellos, and basses. That's our orchestra for Mozart. It's just an awesome balance of, they work kind of in teams. You've got like this octet of woodwinds, the flutes, oboes, clarinets, and bassoons, pairs of each of those. You've got a pair of trumpets, a pair of horns, and the timpani. Those 5 people kind of work together as a team because there's a certain kind of sound with the brass instruments there in that quartet, the 2 horns and 2 trumpets, very similar. The horns blend a little bit more with the woodwinds. And then the timpani and the trumpets in particular give some punch to some of the, louder sections. And then of course the string section typically works as a team as well, with the first violins joining a lot of the other solo woodwinds with melodies and things. So here we can see that the bassoons, when you have an A2 right here, that means both people are playing here. Instead of just a solo bassoon, both players are going to play this solo line, along with all of these strings, which are playing in unison. Actually, they're playing in octaves. Okay, so the violins start on D4 here. This particular D is D4, and the bassoons start on D3. And let's see, all the violins are on D4, the violas on D4, and the cellos on D3, and the basses, it sounds an octave below where it's written, and so they are starting on the D that is below that, on D2. And all that means, those are just octave designations in the staff. If you were to look on the piano keyboard and figure out the octave designations for notes, the very bottom note of the piano is an A. It's a white key and it's an A, and it's A0. And then we have B0. And then with that C, the third white key up from the bottom, it's C1. And the numbers change on C. So if you count up, you have A0, B0, then C1. And if you go up an octave to the next C, that's C2, then C3. And C4 is middle C on the piano. And so if you know where that is, you can totally learn your octave designations on the piano. And just know it changes every time you get up to a C. So middle C is C4, and the B right below it is B3. Okay? Some people can remember C4 in the middle because C4 is kind of like dynamite. And that's just, I guess, or an explosive. It's just funny. Whatever. Teenage boys come up with all kinds of crazy ways to remember things. So, and they're the ones who are like, oh, is that like an explosive? Yes, it is. I'm just seeing this. Would you like to talk about the Act 2 finale? I am not prepared to talk about the Act 2 finale right now, but I would gladly have a discussion on Saturday about that. So how's that? If there's a particular thing you want to talk about there, if it's plot-wise or music-wise, or how it's like so many people singing at one time, it's just nuts. These finales, these Mozart finales are amazing. We can talk about that Saturday. There's some really cool things about this overture in the phrase structure. And, aside from all that orchestration business and how they all are working in groups, And sometimes there's a solo line with a group, like in this beginning here. We've got the bassoons and all the strings are playing. Pianissimo, which is very soft. We go right right off the bat. We think about phrases being in chunks, typically in this period of being 4 measures, 8 measures, 16 measures, in these chunks that are balanced. And I talked earlier about Mozart being very balanced and understanding symmetry and proportions and all blah, blah, blah. Fancy music stuff. Well, this is totally... This opera has very few 8-bar chunks. There's lots of 6-bar chunks and 4-bar chunks, and they work in these 10-bar chunks together. And it was just blowing my mind yesterday when I was looking through this piece. So right off at the beginning, so right there we have this weird 6-bar phrase, which is so unusual. This 6 bars, it's unusual. And then we're into a different tune. We have a pair of the oboes and the horns have this ba ba da dum ba doo 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 boo doo doo doo. And then we've got the bassoons and the strings that come back in with ba-da-la-la-lum, ba-da-la-la-la-la-la-la-lum. But these, okay, we've got this from the first page. We've got this 6-bar thing, and then we've got kind of a measure of intro or an extension. I'm going to call this an external extension because it's kind of after this phrase and before the next phrase. It's kind of just an extra bar in there, thrown in there to give just a little bit of space. And so starting with this last measure, 1, 2, 3, 4 measures. We got a 4-measure chunk, and then we have this new section. The bum 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 ba-ga-dum 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 ba-ga-dum. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars. What? And then we're back with the tune from the beginning. What I'm calling the Marriage of Figaro lick, or the MF lick. The MF lick. Okay. It's really pretty difficult. So we've got that lick is coming back, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 measures long. And then we've got kind of this measure here, and then we've got this more sustained da da dum bo doo 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 doo, which is 4 bars, and then we've got this bum 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 ba-ga-dum 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 ba-ga-dum, the 6-bar thing there, and then we have another. This was just making me crazy last night. After that 6-bar thing, we've got this 6-bar thing. 6 bars here, and then another 4-bar chunk. And then we're back into like a new thing that's 6 bars. Like, it does this over and over. And I was just like, what? Why? And then I decided, I went through the entire overture. And if you wanted to just watch me work on my iPad for a minute and get all the files moved over to my laptop while we sit here and, whatever, we could do that and you can see everything I've written on here. But it does that throughout this whole piece. It goes back and forth between 6 bars, 4 bars, and then it has an extra bar thrown in every once in a while as like a little cushion or a little, transformative measure that doesn't really have a place in either of the phrases, or maybe it's the tail end of a phrase, which typically might be overlapped, dovetailed with the next phrase, like that. But then instead of doing that, he puts in another bar to give it just a breath of space before he starts on this new tune. And what I found out in some research about this, because I was like, why, in all of the Mozart that you could go and study, why is this doing this? Why? So much of his other music is very nice little compartmental, 4-bar chunks. Everything makes perfect sense, like antecedent, consequent, question, answer, and all these phrases and stuff. This, what? And there are also over 9 melodic fragments, different melodic fragments in this, none of which are in this opera. It's just such a funny overture. But what it does that is unlike all of the other overtures that we're going to hear this week, what's special about this overture is that it does not have a slow section. All of the other overtures have a slow section in them. And this, when I said at the beginning of this talk that it doesn't have any melodic fragments, like a little teaser for the rest of the opera in this overture, what it does do is it gives you a very good sense of the energy of the opera, the franticness, the off-kilter dynamic of the whole plot. There's shady stuff going on in this whole opera. We've got people having affairs, people wanting to do this, people that don't even know they have a kid together, people who don't know who their parents are, people, scheming, plotting, changing identities, all this kind of nonsense. And this overture sets up that action really well with all of the tension, the off-kilterness, the off-balance aspect of that. It is really good at that. And so it's frantic. You can hear all that. It's very sneaky. It's very sneaky. Starts off pianissimo. And if you've ever seen Bugs Bunny cartoons, which I know almost everybody in the opera group has, because that's how many of us were introduced to opera when we were kids, right? But you know how Bugs Bunny, when he's tiptoeing upstairs or downstairs, boop, 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 boop. We have that feeling right here. Very sneaky. Doodle-loop, doodle-loop, doodle-loop. Okay, the game's afoot. It's afoot. So we have that, and it's really exciting. It's just, what happens next? Very, very exciting. So it conveys that sense of excitement and mystery and hijinks and sneaking around. And it sort of does prepare you for that kind of action. So that is one, I think that's the coolest thing about this particular overture, is that it does not preview any of the music that we're going to hear in the opera. And the off-balance nature of the phrase structure is directly related to the off-balance nature of the plot. And so I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Music is so cool. I talk all day long with my theory students about identifying really interesting things in music and making relationships, finding relationships in music, and how do we make sense out of that? What does it mean? Why did the composer pick that? Why did they do that there? What do we call that? It's just very exciting. Okay, probably some other things. I can answer any questions you have about the materials of music theory type things. I was going to say something about the the melodic. Okay, we've talked about the rhythmic nature of this a little bit, how it's very, you know, uh, active, and it's fast. It is super fast. And the tempo marking at the beginning of this is presto. And I think this is very interesting about the tempo of this piece. What I find interesting here in this score is that it's marked common time. This C here at the beginning of a staff, of course you can't see my cursor, but at the beginning of the staff you can see the C written inside the staff, which means common time, which means 4/4 time, which 4 beats in each measure and the quarter note gets the beat. And so normally you would count 4/4 like 1, 2, 3, 4, and presto would be super fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But guess what? Presto means extremely fast, like pretty much as fast as you can play it without going off the rails. Okay, presto is pretty darn fast, and everybody plays this in two beats per measure. Like cut time, which all it is looks exactly the same as common time, except it's just fast and you beat it in 2. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, it'd be 1, 2, 1, 2, and keep the same. If you beat this, if the conductor did this in 4, and look, I have my handy baton right here, so I can, I'm not a conductor, but I play one on TV. Okay, sorry about that. But if I was conducting this and I saw 4/4, I would immediately think 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Here, I'm gonna change this a little bit. Here we go. So if I was conducting this, you might have 1, 2, 3. Can't see. I'm just gonna go for it here. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2. Imagine doing this, like if this was the fastest I can conduct in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we did it that fast, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that's way too slow. Way, way, way too slow. Nobody plays it that slow. If you're playing it that slow, this piece is beyond you. So if it's more like ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da, 1, 2, ba-da-da-da-da-dum, ya-da-dum, ba-da-da, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. How ridiculous is that? Ridiculous. Like, we can't conduct like that. Nobody can conduct like that. And nobody can follow that either. Like, imagine you're sitting in an orchestra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Nobody, not going to happen. 1, 2. It's already really fast, even in 2. And, the bassoon players are double tonguing that because we have when the horns and the oboes come in with this sustain thing going da da dum ba da 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 dum ba da da dum. The bassoons are going dega 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 dega. So and already I'm too slow. 1, 2, it's super fast, super fast. So not all the time. I mean, are these markings exactly what in this period Mozart's time, they were still working out the rules of written music. There's so much that was very different from composer to composer, from time in composers' lives, from their early stuff to their late stuff. It just, there's still things that are not 100% true for every composer during all the time there. Like, ornaments are done differently depending on when it was written, where it was written, who wrote it, who the player is. Like, we're still in a period where there was some license offered to the players to add some ornaments, put their own little flair on there, which was super common in the Baroque period and expected. I mean, Baroque music is pretty much like a framework. I'm not going to call it a suggestion. I've heard some people say, "Oh, it's just a suggestion." It's not a suggestion. This is the structure, this is the tune, and then we're going to have, an A section, and we're going to have a B section. Then I'm going to let you do the A section, but then now you can do something to it. Now you can add your own little flair the second time through, and that's where we get that ternary form, that da capo aria, and we'll talk about that in Donizetti after Wagner week. Wagner has no repeats. Wagner is through composed, and he doesn't repeat big sections of anything. He just repeats phrases over and over and over, themes, and interweaves them all over the place. That's a whole other thing. Okay, I saw something about Gluck here. Let's look at this. I read today that Gluck was the first to make an overture actually cover parts of the music from the opera. Before him, sometimes the Mozart even used music from another work altogether. Mozart and Gluck weren't that far apart. Maybe that's why some of this overture isn't in the opera. Yep. That you're right. Yeah, they were still, that's absolutely correct. They still didn't, know what this was going to be. Still figuring out music. Imagine the early days of English. What kind of mess was that? Who even knew, how to speak English for a while? And what kind of mishmash of languages was it? Right? Or any language. Think about any language. It took it a while before they all decided this is how it's going to be written. This is how you tell people to play this. This is the new symbolic language of what these sounds are like that we're not speaking. And what's magical about music, there's just so many things. And I'm going to close here with this little, because I'm hitting an hour right now, which is really good because I'm here at a good closing bit. But the magic of orchestra writing, and even more magical with opera. And what is so cool about it is, imagine, 200, 300, 400 years ago, some people were writing music and wrote it down on paper, with a quill, okay, or a pen, whatever they were using. I guess a quill, probably. They had a system where they could write down what the sounds people were making in a way that, they decided everyone could interpret this. And the instructions were clear enough that even 400 years since then, we can figure out how to play that. There's so much information in music, so much. Think about, I'm just thinking about even just a Chopin nocturne. There's so many very specific instructions in there, that, pianists can play pretty much what Chopin had in mind. He was very skilled at, putting his musical thoughts into notation. that's not where it ends. The magic is just starting there with one person being able to do that. Imagine now that this is so specific that you could have 100 people playing on instruments that, for the most part, are all different. And they are all different parts for all of those different instruments. And you pass out this music, this information to all of these people who've learned all these different instruments and may not even speak the same language. You could take them from all over the world that have learned how to play these instruments without any other instruction and put somebody in front of them, and just through a pickup or a preparatory beat, just by going, they could all play together the first time and read off of that piece of paper with all of those different instruments, all of those different parts. Maybe nobody's speaking the same language, all being able to take this one cue, play rhythmically together like a machine, and also be aware enough of the whole thing to also be thinking about playing in tune with 100 other people or with their stand partner or their section members. And also looking at the conductor and getting an eye there and following what they're doing. Maybe they're changing something. Let's throw some singers in there and see what happens. It's sorcery. It's magic. Like, it is absolute magic how something like that happens. And this is what I think of, and I try to get across to my students. Like, people just take this for granted, and it is not always that easy. It is not that easy in every orchestra. When you get in an orchestra and everybody can sight read like that, or everybody can play at a certain level, it is like, it's miraculous. It really is. It is miraculous. And that somebody thought that up and put it on paper. I am just take a minute and think about that. How amazing is that? And we totally take that for granted. We take it for granted because it's not like, hey, they're going to build, they're going to build a road. I mean, roads are really important, and, the design and all that, very important. But let's do this on the fly, and let's have it speak some kind of emotional, it's going to reach some kind of emotional place inside of me that we can't have a conversation with words and have that same kind of moment. So that's like the human emotional feelings, I don't know, connection that you just can't get any other way. And so why this is kind of where my mind goes when I hear people complaining about opera, complaining about the Metropolitan Opera. There are lots of things to complain about in the world. This is not one of them, honestly. Like, not one of them. No. We can be all fancy and hoity-toity and, but you want to know why we're in a situation where we're wondering about, the future of the arts and stuff like this. Where's the support for the arts? Well, it's honestly fans that are so passing judgment on people new to the art, making people feel weird or uncomfortable about coming to things, about the way people are dressed, about just all kinds of things, like just the perception that it's a fancy thing. Like, that's just, I'm out to help dispel that myth. Because the truth is, and we talked about it last night, the truth is that opera singers, orchestra members, no one cares what anyone in the audience is wearing. Nope, don't care. They just want you to be there and listen to what they have to say. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. You know, artists around the world just want you to show up and appreciate it. You know, listen to their hard work. Listen to what they've been thinking about, what they've trained their whole lives to do, and what it means to them. It comes through in the music. All you have to do is listen to some of these singers, and you can just hear what an emotional toll it probably is to sing these roles. They're really putting their heart and soul into it, and for us to say, oh, you know, dismiss them so easily or complain, it's just, I'm embarrassed, honestly, when I see people, you know, oh, I wish they would leave the opera on for one more day so that I could watch it for free, you know, when I have time. And I'm just thinking, rent it for a day. Lots of people, hundreds and hundreds of people put in a lot of work to make that opera happen. Pay $5 and watch it. Okay? Okay. So music is total magic. And so the next time you think about complaining about these high-level magical people, just think again, like, how's your magic? Right? How's your magic? All right. That's all I got to say about that. And I will be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we have, let me pull up the thing because I don't have the week memorized. It's a Monday. I had a long day today teaching and doing the things that teachers do. And of course, 2 meetings after school. No rest for the weary. Okay, tomorrow night is Cosi fan tutte with Susanna Phillips, Isabel Leonard. We get Isabel Leonard 2 nights in a row. Cool. Danielle Denise, Matthew Polenzani, another fan favorite. Leslie Miller's favorite. Just a shout out to Leslie there. Rodion Pogosov, Maurizio Moraro, and James Levine at the podium again. Wednesday, La Clemenza di Tito, and what a great opera this is. For some reason, when I was younger, I just did not ever want to hear this, and there was something about the title, and this is so stupid. It's stupid that, you know, a title would put you off about something, and it's because I didn't know anything about it. So I finally listened to it, and it's awesome. It's a terrific opera. So Lucy Crowe, Barbara Frittoli, Elena Garancha, Kate Lindsay, another big fan favorite, both of those, Garancha and Lindsay. Giuseppe Filianati, Oren Gradas, who was in in Madame Butterfly, I believe, or Tornado, Madame Butterfly, I think. Harry Bickett, love Harry Bickett. He is such an awesome conductor, and if you remember, if you saw Agrippina, he's the conductor for Agrippina. Just amazing. Amazing harpsichordist. Just amazing early music specialist. That's going to be fabulous. A huge treat. Thursday night, the Magic Flute, or Die Zauberflöte. Golda Schultz, which you've seen probably in Porgy and Bess, a beautiful singer. Catherine Lewick, Charles Castronovo, Marcus Verba, Christian Van Horn, and Renee Papa, and Levine again there. Friday night, Don Giovanni. Yep. Love that opera. This is a fun one. This has got another fun group of folks in it. Marina Rebecca, Barbara Frittoli, something Moika, maybe, Erdmann, Ramon Vargas, who we saw last night in La Boheme, Marius Kvietzen, Luca Pizzaroni, which we all love, Stefan Kochsant, who we all love too, and the fabulous Fabio Luisi. And Saturday night, Figaro again. We talked about that Figaro. It's been on. Great cast, great cast. And then Sunday night, Idomeneo with Elza van de Hever, Nadine Sierra, Alice Coote, amazing singer, Matthew Polenzani, and Alan Opie with Levine on the podium again. So really a fantastic week, and I'll be back tomorrow night with some things on Così fan tutte. If there's anything in particular you have questions about or you want discussed, or you always had a question about something that you need an answer right away, just post it in the comments and I'll see it and we can discuss. But lots of good stuff coming up. I'm just excited about this week, and even more excited about Wagner Week next week. My favorite ring cycle next week. We're going to be talking about some leitmotifs and James Morris and, Siegfried Jerusalem, Hildegard Behrens, Gary Lakes, Jesse Norman, all the greats, man. Maddie Salmonen. All right, so lots of good stuff coming next week with Wagner. But right now we got Mozart to deal with, and so I'll see you tomorrow night for some Così. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to check out Twitch, please do. And when you do, follow me on Twitch. Please, I'm trying to reach, I'll just be honest, I'm trying to reach 50 followers this month. And it doesn't really mean anything except that I would like to get 50 followers, and I'd like to have 5 people chatting with each other on Twitch at some point in the next 30 days. So if you feel like you want to try out Twitch and help me out, that would be awesome, but you don't have to. It's just, right now it's a hobby. So I'm just trying things out, seeing if people are amenable to that. So anyway, check that out. I also posted new Puccini shirts, and I'll have some Mozart stuff up too this week. So if you need a Mozart mask, I will have you covered. All right. See you later. Enjoy Figaro tonight.